Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Churchill Club CEO, Karen Tucker.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Tucker, and I am CEO and board member at the Churchill Club. And tonight, we present Women Tech Executive Roundtable 2009. And with us are Janaki Akella of McKinsey, Barbara Carbone of KPMG, Nancy Duarte of Duarte, Inc., Gerri Martin-Flickinger of Adobe, and of course, Ann Winblad of Winblad Partners, Venture Partners. Thank you all for being here. Our lead sponsor for this program is SAP, and we are very grateful for their support and sponsorship. McKinsey & Company is our supporting sponsor tonight, and we certainly appreciate them as well. So could we please give them a nice hand for their support? One of the reasons in doing this program, of course you'll hear many from Ann and the panel, but one of them is to draw attention to some great women-focused organizations in our community. And we have 3 of them here as co-hosts this evening, and so I would like to acknowledge them. Representatives from each of these organizations is present tonight, and I encourage you to seek them out and talk with them before the evening is over. The first is the Anita Borg Institute, or ABI, and Gerri Barrett of ABI, would you stand up, please? ABI focuses on recruiting, retaining, and advancing technical women. Thank you, Gerri. Our second co-host in alphabetical order is Astia, and Jane Gervais of Astia, would you please stand up? Astia helps build women leaders and accelerate the funding and growth of high-potential, high-growth companies, women-led startups. Thank you very much, Jane. And finally, the Forum for Women Executives and Entrepreneurs, or FWE&E, June Lee of FWE&E. Would you please stand up? FWE&E focuses on leadership excellence for accomplished women from a wide range of disciplines and industries, and to build meaningful relationships, to exchange ideas, and openly share collective wisdom. So thank you, June. Brief announcements about upcoming Churchill Club programs. Next Monday on April 27, it's Executive Leadership and Business Performance, a rare chance to hear Bill Campbell, who is known in the Valley as the Coach. He is the former CEO and current chairman of Intuit, and he's known as the Coach because he has legendary counsel to folks such as Steve Jobs and the Google leadership team and Kleiner Perkins. He and another icon, Gordy Campbell, the chairman of Fenwick, and others are going to come and talk about Valley executive style and its result on business performance. It should be a very fascinating discussion. On Thursday, May 7, it's the 2009 CIO Agenda. Karen Ann Terrell, CIO of Baxter, and Matt Carey, CIO of Home Depot, are flying in to speak to our members and guests about trends, strategies, where they're headed, and leading consulting CIO Lars Robb will join them on stage as well. And finally, it's our most anticipated program of the year, the 11th annual Top 10 Tech Trends program, and that's on Wednesday, May 20. This year we have Vinod Khosla, Ram Shriram, Steve Jurvetson, Joe Schoendorf, and Ann Winblad will be making their predictions with high audience participation. So we hope to see you there. If you can only make one of the upcoming programs, make that one. For those not familiar with the Churchill Club, for over 23 years, the Churchill Club has been the leading forum for business and technology in the Bay Area, presenting what's new, what's next, what matters most. We're a nonprofit-supported organization, and if you are not a member and you do enjoy this evening's program, we hope that you will consider joining us. We make it very easy for you to either sign up as a member or to simply get on our mailing list by visiting churchillclub.org. Now I'm very pleased to introduce our moderator, Ann Winblad. Ann is certainly a legend in the tech industry. She is the co-founder and managing director of, as I say, Winblad Venture Partners, a leading venture capital firm focused on software investing, formed nearly 20 years ago. In fact, I think it has been 20 years now. Over the years, Anne has also been a successful software entrepreneur. She's been a strategy advisor, a technical author, and a venture capitalist. She served and serves as director on numerous startup boards and public companies. Her background and experience have been chronicled in many national business and trade publications. She's going to lead the group tonight, but she will also participate in the discussion with her own insights and observations as well. So let us please give our warmest welcome to Anne Winblad.
I think one thing you learn is if you are being called a legend, you probably also need to wear reading glasses. So as soon as you need them, you'll be ready. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our dinner party. I guess we all invited a few guests here tonight. This is the second year that the Churchill Club has done this women's event. So we did it for the first, or they did it for the first time last year, and that was last July. Just to kind of remind you what's happened since last July, which is about 9 months ago. Last July, the NASDAQ was at 2,200, and it was still on its climb to 2,400. Adobe stock was at $45.
Thank you for sharing.
McKinsey had just issued this, they have a quarterly email newsletter, and their newsletter for July was Building the Web 2.0 Enterprise. By September 15th, the McKinsey tone had changed, and the title of their email blast was Positioning for a Downturn. So I guess by now we've all learned how to assume the crash position. As a venture capitalist, you can't be a venture capitalist unless you're an optimist. And we also thrive on disruption, although I would say that we would like it in a little bit more moderation. So venture investing had sort of been steady Eddie since 2004 at $6 to $7 billion a quarter in the US. But even an industry led by optimists looks pointed in a nosedive position, and the amount of investment in Q1 was $3.9 billion, almost 50% lower than Q4. And the number of companies funded declined to 1996 levels. So the bar has certainly risen, and the pressure's gotten higher. While I was driving here, NPR had a piece on the radio about gender tension. And they mentioned that for the first time in the US, many more women will be employed than men. And this is causing a bunch of gender tension. It appears that men who are no longer breadwinners look at themselves as bread losers. So we have a bigger job. So here we are today in this challenging environment with a panel of incredible executives. They all just happen to be women. So before we start our conversation, and it's just as if we're sitting at our table and you get to listen in on us, and the men here are not allowed to take any notes whatsoever. Your pens will be confiscated. You know, so you have the bios. You have the bios of our guests. So before we get started, I'd like each of our panelists to say what they see as their biggest personal challenge in 2009. Who'd like to start? Personal. Personal. Go for it, Nancy.
Personal challenge? I think I've been on a journey. The struggle between women who are kind of high-powered are way more results-driven than relationship-driven. And so my goal this year, I've been embedding for about 2 years in some of the women-run organizations like FWE&E because I've denied myself the pleasure of really being relational. And I've been learning that through my board and through the relationships that I've been building. So that's my own personal goal for this year.
I think my personal goal is not to get overloaded again. I say yes, an opportunity comes up, I grab it. And I've gotten to the point in my workload where I have a nice life. I'm running again. I go home early on Fridays. But there's opportunities coming, and I've said yes to 2 of them without even thinking. And so my goal is to try to keep that balance that I managed to find and control my inclination to always take on more.
My goal is to find that balance.
I can help.
I don't think it is as easy as perhaps
takes work.
Takes quite a bit. So I do have a tendency to say yes as well to everything, and so notion of balance doesn't exist. So would love to perhaps use some of this opportunity in order to try to find a more even keel and a sustainable pace.
I can't add a lot to that. I think what I would say is, for me, it's really hard in a down economy to keep positive momentum and to keep high energy and to come in every day and say, hey, let's do it again. Let's take that next mountain. And I think for me that's a personal challenge, because I think a lot of what's motivational about leaders, whether they're men or women, is their ability to build the vision for people to follow. And when the economy looks like this right now, frankly, as a leader, it's really hard to come in every day and be excited. And you have to keep doing it. And for a personal challenge for me is to keep finding that place in myself that can come in every day and say, we're going to do it again. Let's go take that mountain. and mean it at least enough to keep us moving forward. Yeah. That's hard.
So let's start with some good news here. Last week, the Fortune 500 list was issued. And this was the largest number of women CEOs ever, 15, that's 3%, appeared on this list across diverse industries, including our own famous Carol Bartz, who is in the news a bit this week, and we'll talk about that later. Did anyone on the panel notice this? Did you see this as any kind of turning point? Are you counting any of this stuff, or do you care?
I know it's just a matter of time. I mean, it's right? I think there's so many good women out there. I think people just didn't know way back when what a female CEO looked like. How do they act, and what's okay and what's not okay. And now I think people envision it, and so it's easier to move people into that position. We've got some role models. There aren't the barriers, I think, that were there 10, 20 years ago.
So. I was going to say, it seems to be that, we make news quite easily.
I'm not counting, but I actually experienced a little different challenge recently. For the first time in my career, I actually had more female direct reports than male direct reports, which was the first time in my career. And I didn't set out to do that. I just sort of ended up in that situation. And frankly, and this is a risky thing for me to say, I had never realized how very, very different men and women are to manage. And it frankly wasn't easier having a large staff of women reporting to me. And I'm not trying to say something bad. I'm really not. It's just a different style. And we are tuned in business to a certain kind of style norm. And when you start shifting that balance, it shifts the whole system. And so the numbers to me, I don't watch the numbers, but I think what will be interesting as this unfolds over time, because I think you're right, Barbara, it will unfold. Yeah. We will find that the whole equilibrium of how business decisions are made is going to have to also shift for it to be real. And I think that's much harder. Yeah.
I just noticed everybody uses the word career, not job, in talking about themselves on the panel. When you read someone's bios, it seems like it was kind of a straight line to a planned path. Did any of you ever think about changing course? Did you sort of change course? And Nancy, I searched the web and I couldn't find your bio, and we'll talk about your description of yourself later. Did you actually have a career path? You're an entrepreneur who started a business, but everybody else here works in a company. Can you talk about how you use the word career versus job?
So maybe I can just take a few minutes to describe my journey. Right? I actually started out as very much in the pure technologist. I have a PhD in computer engineering and very much a researcher at heart, and went to Hewlett-Packard Labs and did a lot of sort of technical work. I don't think at that time I thought I would go into business or management. And so in terms of a career path, I can certainly tell you that it was a big change, coming into consulting. But I think the red thread that, at least for me, through this, and in terms of thinking of a career and what's the job, is what was passionate, what is exciting, and what was and through graduate school, the potential of technology was limitless. Probably many of you are in situations like this where you're working with technology or working with, whatever aspect it is, which you find the potential of that limitless. And really, when we thought about the impact it could have, and that's the sort of red thread that I see between, being a researcher at HP Labs and versus being a partner at McKinsey.
Did you have any fantasy life you envisioned? I mean, one thing that happens, when you get a bunch of men
this
on
is
the
a family
panel.
show.
Let's say Roger McNamee was up here. Roger has a fantasy about being a musician, so he actually does that. He talks about it. He gets in front of people, and no one's bios that I looked at talked about anything sort of on the edge here. Is there anything else you want to tell us about?
Well, I hiked the canyon down last summer, and I don't know if that's a bit of an edge compared to, you think of, sort of very serious work all the time. That's not true.
Yeah.
We do our fair share of.
I guess I'm boring. I started at KPMG knowing I wanted to be a partner. I started out though wanting to be a teacher. I taught preschool for 3 years, and then I went.
Oh yeah, that connects. Preschool, KPMG.
You would
A straight line career. Listen to
There's
that.
a lot of similarities.
Listen to that.
When I managed the practice, believe me, I drew on a lot of my skills. Dealing with my partners was a lot like 5-year-olds sometimes. But I went to college. I went to a junior college for 2 years and didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was working in an office, and my boss said, well, take the accounting course. I took it, piece of cake. I said, I can do this. So I went home to my father, and I said, I think I'm going to get my associate's degree in accounting. And he said, why not get a CPA? Why stop short? And I didn't even know what a CPA was. But my dad really motivated me to go for it. And so I think that started me on the career path that I'm on. So I went to 4-year school, got my degree, started recruiting, immediately saw the partners and said, okay, that's the top job, I want the job. And became a partner, and of course, as I was moving up to the partner, I saw, okay, who's the audit pick and who's the managing partner, and I always sort of set my sights high. So I think it helped me because I had a vision of where I wanted to get to. Now, it wasn't a straight path. I didn't just stay and do the same thing. I've worked with clients in almost every industry there is. I've done leasing, banking, high tech, commercial, everything. I've been in San Francisco, I've been in New York, I've been in Silicon Valley. So I'm doing the same thing within a firm that allows me to have that variety. So the one thing I have figured out is that I change every 5 years or so. I get a little restless.
But your partners would be shocked if they saw you in a Guitar Hero commercial in boxer shorts. Right?
That's true.
I love this word journey, and it's not one I use a lot in my vocabulary, but it is a great way from how I feel about where I've been and where I'm heading to. And of course, the bio you read was a PR bio, right? So it sounds
That's why I'm asking.
great. No, I have a very, mine was a pretty straight line career.
Don't let the fact that you work in a public company stop you.
Oh no, no worry, no worry. I had a pretty traditional career, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, kind of mainstream IT, growing my career, having higher and higher level management roles, moving companies a couple times to take that leap. But for me, the part that really became a defining moment that was very unusual was my decision to start a family. And most of us panelists had little conversations about this, which I won't divulge to this larger group.
I might, though.
But you might. Okay, you watch it.
Just my own secret.
Okay, because we're best friends now. Okay, so, but for me, I got to the point in my career, I was a very successful CIO, quite happy in that role, but realized that becoming a parent was going to take me to step out of that role for a serious amount of time, that I couldn't carry that ball and actually start this new adventure. So I actually made a focused decision to leave my career, and that is that C word, really leave my career behind. And I left completely the business world for 4 years. And I spent a couple of it trying to get the kid thing to happen, and a couple of it raising some little girls for 2 years, and decided that at-home thing doesn't work for me. So got the heck out of Dodge with that one. But I just got very lucky and was able to, fortunately, through a series of just very fortunate connections that, you know, one of those things people always say, it's always about connections, and you always go, yeah, it's just because I'm great, right? No, it's just because you knew somebody who remembered your name and they called you, and before you know it, it kind of lines up. And I did get very lucky. So I re-entered my career path at the same basic level in a different company that I had left. So I didn't really lose ground. And I didn't work, I mean, I'll be very frank, I didn't work real hard at that. I was very lucky. You know, I really did unplug for 4 years and came back in. And I think for me, that journey, what's important for me to think about with that is it's important in your life journey to, when you need to take a time to do something different, give yourself permission to do that and stop worrying about 5 years out. Life, somehow, trust in life, trust in yourself, trust in your instinct, trust in all the good you've done before that will come back to you later, because it's a leap of faith, and it's a hard one. And for me, that was very, very important. And so for me, one of the challenges right now is balancing that, right? Because now I have these little 5-year-old kids running around, and I'm back in it.
Oh, I have to answer that one too.
Well, no, let's ask you a different question, Nancy. So everybody sounds like they've had sort of, everything's gone extremely well. And okay, just say no. Just say no.
Well, it's funny. How can you have a career failure when you're the one, like, you know, running the whole thing? So,
Yeah.
like, making a career misstep that didn't move me up, I'm in complete control of that. I think there was one particular utter failure because it was lack of insight on my part, and that was when we were approached by Al Gore's team to say they were going to make our slideshow into a movie. I laughed, and I said, who's going to pay $10 to see a slideshow about a movie? Are you kidding me? Because we'd worked with him for several years already and put at a very discounted rate and already poured our lives and hearts into this slideshow, and they asked us.
That was before he developed his dynamic speaking skills.
Exactly. This was long before. This is when he was a dullard, so I'm talking about now. No. Now. So it was I was just so stupid because they said that the company called and said, if you donate $10,000 worth of your time, we will never say a word about the movie without your name closely associated with the movie and with Mr. Gore. And I laughed. I said, you know, I've already put hundreds and hundreds of I'm tired. And so no, because I thought it would never amount to anything. I didn't realize, you know, that it would create this global tipping point. So that was stupid. So now it's all over the back of my book. It's in my bio that, you know, we worked with him and stuff. So he's cool, but that was stupid. You all saw the movie, and I should have done it.
All right, we got to top Nancy here. Come on. What was the worst day of your career, Barbara?
I erased it from my mind.
Okay. You mentioned it on the
There's
phone.
bad ones.
Oh, that one?
That one.
That was the beginning of my career. That was just embarrassing. I was interviewing for my position at KPMG. At the time, it was Pete Marwick, of course. And I was meeting with the recruiter, and he said, well, you know, this doesn't happen very often, but the audit pick wants to meet you. And he cleared his schedule because he wants to interview you. He's heard a lot about you. And I was like, oh, my gosh. And so I stand up to meet him, and we have those glass walls in our office. And just a little bit about the audit pick at that time. His name was John Madonna. And John went on to become the chairman of the firm and the chairman of the firm globally. Very, very impressive man. Perfect. Not a hair out of place, perfectly dressed, perfect teeth, you know, just impeccable. Well, I stand up, and I had this cute little clutch bag. Zipper was open. Fell out, everything on the floor. And I was like, I Love Lucy. Every time I picked something up, something else would fall down. It was just, and he was just standing there and just laughing. And I just put my hand out, and I said, I guess she won't forget me. And had the interview, and he went back to the recruiter and wrote a note and said, hire her. So it worked out.
So this is an interesting conversation. We have a lot of young women in the audience as well. So we might be giving everybody the sense that, you know, if everything goes perfect, you can be as successful as all four of you. Are you just great overachievers? What's driven success for each of you? Clearly, it wasn't learning through failure. so we'll take that off the table.
That's a little bit of the journey that I've been on. I hired people smarter than myself finally, so now I get to do what I really want to do, and I've been on that self-discovery journey, and I found out pretty quickly that people that overachieve sometimes were raised in environments that were either economically starved or emotionally starved. And I realized really recently that I needed to go back and kind of deal and face the lies I'd been telling myself, or lies that I believed that other people told about me. And that was this driver to be overachiever. I mean, God, just trying to way overshoot the moon. And I had to cut myself some slack and learn to love myself. And I never felt like I was successful till about a year ago. Had some kind of breakthroughs with my mom and some other things happen. And it was a struggle for me to congratulate myself. I just was in denial. And it's really weird how that happens, how you're working so hard for acceptance and then you finally arrive and you don't notice it. Because you're so driven, you're just in this panic mode of trying to be loved by someone who ignored you or was too caught up in their own issues to give you what you needed. And so I'm hoping I'm over the overachieving phase. I'm sure I'm going to move into this new one of all these other undiscovered flaws, but that's been really a good kind of restoration thing, and that's what was the root of my overachieving.
So it's a little curious, and especially when you said that, Barbara, that you set your sights where you want to go. I think it's a little different for me. I don't think, I got up and said that I'd like to be at a particular place, but I think at every small step I dared to dream big, right? It's at whatever the small step was, whether it was getting into graduate school or getting into the, first job after that or the thesis or whatever.
You saw yourself graduating, not just
I saw myself, sort of trying to extract the most potential out of that and making an impact there. And I'm a little curious, I'd be curious, how you think about it, whether that's maybe a difference between, men and women. I don't know. But it seems to me a lot of what I did was to dream big every small step of the way. And
I think it is. I mean, I've been in environments with peer CEOs where the women did everything. They showed back at the monthly meeting with the homework done and the business plan figured out and the marketing figured out. And the guys were just kind of like, what was the homework again? We were supposed to do something between, we were just like, we wanted to do it right. And granted, we were very outnumbered. And I think it does make, I think it is what's different because we only have, you're so busy with your two little twins or whatever, so we have to seize every moment.
I have an amazing husband, man at home that's taking care of it.
I have a little bit of a kept man myself. But you have to seize the moment, right? You have to seize every minute out of every day and, be up to our elbows. And so I think we have to face our careers the same way.
I think I had that experience and that drive too, but I got kind of stuck because I was working all the time and I was saying yes to everything and I was in the office constantly and I was being told, you're at the top of your class, you're doing great, you're a great performer. What they weren't telling me was that they weren't seeing me at the next level because I was a good worker, I was a good doer. I could always get the job done. One of my counselors told me, what's great about you, the best trait about you is that you've got expandable capacity. We could throw anything at you and you'll get it done. And to me, that was, wow, okay, throw some more. I'll keep going. And finally, I had two partners. It actually took two of them telling me the same thing. One said, something's wrong. He was a Texan, Terry Strange. He eventually became the...
Don't write down these
names. All these people. Christine knows them because they worked on the account with us. But he became a very successful man, and he's like, you must not be doing something right because you're the only one here at 11:30 every night. Figure it out. That was all he could say, So I just worked faster, harder. So I didn't get the message from him. And then I had another partner, Don Brinks is his name. And he finally came in and he said, you're never going to make partner until you become a manager and not a doer. And that was my reaction. It was like, what? And he said, nobody sees you in the role. And I needed that slap in the face, sort of that direct, honest feedback to sort of step back and say, oh, yeah, there is a different way to work. And so I started making sure I had the right people on my team so that they could do the work and not me. And I started paying attention to who was a good manager and what are they doing that allows them to go home at 5 o'clock. And so it's sort of, I was on a fast track, but then I got stuck, and then I made a big move up after I got that good feedback.
So Gerri, you've been at a number of great companies in Silicon Valley, McAfee, VeriSign, and now Adobe. So in this environment, a common question I'm asked is, is it okay in a bad economy to change jobs if I don't feel like I'm in the right job? How did you decide to make those changes to go, to different companies? Was there risk in those changes?
There's always risk. I mean, risk is facing all of us every day, so that goes without saying. I think for me, when I chose to make the move from VeriSign to Adobe, it was actually a very difficult decision for me because I'd only been at VeriSign a really short period of time and was enjoying what I was doing, felt like I was having the kind of impact I wanted to have. But frankly, what appealed to me about Adobe was not just the fact that there were a couple elements of the job that appealed to me and my career growth that would give me some new ways to grow, but also I really looked at the company culture. And I think for women especially, I noticed they become very sensitive to the cultural surroundings they're in the company. And I think it's very important for everyone to constantly be seeking, at whatever point in their life, the right type of cultural surrounding to help them achieve. And I was looking for a company because I was a parent with young kids who valued family values, who thought it was really cool if you could figure out how to get your work done by 6 and get home. And they thought that was a bigger deal than staying till 11. And they really mean it. And a company that takes a little more time to think through some of the decisions and is a little less reactionary than typical high tech. And those were some of the attributes I saw at Adobe, frankly. And so even though there was a risk, and for me, candidly, the biggest risk was leaving a company I'd been with such a short time, because you don't want to mar your resume that way, right? It looks kind of funny when you have something less than a couple years, right? But it was literally presented to me as an opportunity. It was a call in to me. I didn't go looking for it, and it just all worked out. I mean, again, that optimism, I keep saying that, just works out. Just follow your instinct, follow your gut. When you're presented with an opportunity that feels like a better fit, leap. And that can happen in a good or a bad economy. I mean, people are still hiring right now. People are hiring top talent. Top talent is still hard to get, right? People are bidding for top talent. If you feel like you have a talent in your heart and are looking for a better culture to explore that talent, go looking for it. This is a great time to do it. Don't be scared.
So I read this on a website the other day, and it's a quote. "I'm a conquistador who liberates the undiscovered, sets boundaries for safe play, and builds fortresses where dreams can be realized. I create, protect, and conquer the future with extreme respect and reverence for the past." How many women here would feel comfortable describing themselves as a conquistador? Raise your hand. Well, we know you. All right. We're going to have a survey of which panelists we think describe themselves that way. Janaka. Raise your hand if you think it's Janaka. Barbara. Nancy.
That's pretty good. It's
Gerri.
Look at that. No,
We tied.
We're tied.
And you're tied. It was Nancy.
It was Nancy.
So Nancy, have you had any interesting responses from other people in the description of
I think
yourself?
people are shocked, like you are.
I wasn't shocked. I thought it was fabulous.
Conquistador. It was a journey, I think, to get there. We went through, about 10 years ago, we went through personality testing with a life coach. And it was really clarifying for me because my verb was, to conquer and liberate. My husband's verb is to relax in my life mission statement. Those are the verbs in our sentences. Clarified everything from how we approach raising kids to, everything. And, sorry, did you say this is rated G? I'm kind of a PG-13 girl. So what happened was, one of the key words that kind of bubbled up from these testing was that I was rebellious, and I cried. I really cried about that, because I was like, I'm not rebellious. I am not rebellious, And he said, no, Nancy, this is good, because what you'll do is you'll have the boldness to lead rebellions on behalf of other people for the sake of the people. And so what's happened has been that that's what I do, and I create these really safe places. I have to go out and be the scout that machetes down and defends the company from the attackers, and I create this really safe environment where my team gets to take risks, right? So I am kind of a conqueror and liberator, but it's on behalf of a people group. So it's not like me for the sake of rebelling. It's me, creating this really cool environment for people to thrive. So.
Can we all go there?
Yeah.
We use Adobe products, hundreds of thousands of dollars of Adobe products.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk afterwards.
Yeah. When I was in high school, my dad was the high school guidance counselor. He was the high school basketball coach, and then he got a little older. And so as seniors, we had to take that test called the Cooter Preference Test, where you punched holes in there, and it told you what careers you should have. And so I was really excited about that because I thought, I like a lot of stuff. I wonder what I'm going to test. And I said, Dad, can you tell me in advance? He goes, no, you're going to have to take the test over. So on the fifth time that I took that test, I had now memorized the test. I mean, I could do it, by Braille at this point in time. So my dad didn't like the answer that my first choice that I should be a general in the Army, or the second I should be an actress. So there are, maybe those traits help, but
You do a little of both right now.
Yeah, that's right. So the reason I bring this up is about competition. Clearly, when you get to be the CIO of Adobe or a partner in firms or running your own firm, there's only one CEO, there's only one CIO at Adobe. There's a limited number of partners. Did you have to compete for your jobs, and how did that manifest itself?
Every day. I mean, the culture in a Big Four accounting firm, back when I started, it was Big Eight. It's all about up or out. And so you're competing every day in everything that you do, from the engagements that you get, which, who gets the big ones, who gets the little ones, who's stuck in government, And so you paid attention to that sort of thing. It's true. And so you competed there, and you competed with the staff that you got. And the partners that you worked with. So it's a very competitive environment. I think I stopped competing somewhere in like my third or fourth year of being a partner until I became a business unit pick. Then it was a whole new competition. I was competing with all of the other business units, and every month they'd send the results out, and where was my business unit compared to everybody else. I was only one. There were 2 women, actually, business unit picks out of 24. And the 2 of us sort of partnered up together against the guys, so it was interesting.
Interesting. I don't think I hope I don't sound too naive. I don't think we face that kind of a competition, but definitely there's a lot of, competition with respect to making sure that you are bringing in the most attractive work, right? So it's the most exciting studies, so that the people want to be on your studies, right? You're bringing in the most. So there's definitely competition from that perspective, and I think among your partners, you want to be the one who is perhaps doing the leading edge work, most transformative work, most impactful. Spending local work and come home on his own, not traveling, right? There are all these dimensions along which, as a result of which, there is competition, and then ultimately, you're competing with yourself, right?
What about other women? Have they been your friends, your foes, your mentors, your influencers?
This is my best friend. I met her an hour ago.
I was really lucky. Being from the San Francisco office of KPMG, I always had female role models. So this being a woman role model sort of was new to me when I became a partner and traveled. Well, when I was a partner in charge of HR and went to New York, it was amazing to me how little exposure people had to female role models. I was just shocked. But lucky for me, I had lots of them. So I think that's always been good. Yet, the ones I learned the most from were the men that I worked for, I think. But there was one the manager I worked with the most, then she became a partner, Jody. At the time, I really resented her because she was driving me and pushing me and, you know, making me get things ready 2 weeks before the meeting, and just, she was really pushing me.
So you thought she was mean then?
I thought she was mean, yeah, and that, you know, I don't need to be told what to do, kind of that. And now we're great friends, and she's on the board of one of my clients, and she is so proud of me, and it's really fun. Our relationship is great, but we talk about some of the run-ins we had back when I was a young pup, and now she can kind of let me know what her tactics were. It's interesting.
I just compete with men.
It's easier that way.
It's easier.
So one of the questions we always ask when we're interviewing candidates for our companies is, how do you deal with change and uncertainty? And certainly as we began today, we talked about, we've got uncertainty in spades.
Funny. But I